Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. Tuesday's People's Poll Day. So we have 3 options that people were allowed to choose from and a clear winner.
No, it wasn't a clear winner at all, actually, Suj, to be honest.
It won, didn't it?
Yes, I love your style, Suj.
It got more votes than everything else, did it not?
It did get more votes, but only by 2%.
2%. How many people voted?
2% is enough.
It tells you how many votes.
Yeah, 500 or so.
500. So you're talking 2%, 10 people.
Yeah, 10 people wanted
10
this more than
whole people.
Exactly. There were 3 options in the People's Poll, all kind of season-long, kind of defined, if you will. There was the idea of picking a team of the season, but very different to Gary Neville's rather strange selections on Monday Night Football last night. We're going to potentially pick a team of the season of non-Big Six players. Declan Rice would have been in there, certainly. Best of awards, we could have looked at Player of the Year, Goal of the Season, Manager of the Year, all those sort of things that would probably get asked maybe on next Monday's podcast. But the winner of the vote was Player of the Year. Each club's Player of the Year individually. We'll have a little rundown of each club season. And who their player of the season, I guess.
We're not talking from 2022 onwards, the whole season.
No one calls it Player of the Season. Player of the Year, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it depends when it suits, because then when you get to the end of the calendar year, they'll start talking about, he scored this many goals in the calendar year and that kind of thing. So it depends when the statistics suit the time period quite often. When you talk about Messi's 91 goals, we talk about in a calendar year. We don't talk about in a season. And why is that? Because it suits the narrative of the year. But I get it. We are talking about this season.
Can we, before we do season, player of the seasons, player of the year, whatever, a word for young Jake Daniels?
Indeed. He's obviously made his announcement yesterday. He's only 17, professional footballer at Blackpool. I mean, who hasn't? I'd be surprised if any listeners hadn't heard the story so far.
So Jake Daniels, 17-year-old, plays for Blackpool. Made his senior debut against Peterborough last month only. Came up yesterday in an interview with Sky Sports, which I think all the press were ready for because they were all on it at basically bang on 5 o'clock yesterday. Has come out as Britain's first openly gay footballer for over 30 years.
Yeah, when you said first, I was going to say it's not the first, but actually he's the only active footballer, professional playing footballer right now, and the first since Justin Fashanu.
It's a huge story. I think that if this story had happened on Sunday, we probably would have been doing it as a whole podcast, and I'm sure we'll come back onto it. It's a huge story because of that, because no one since Justin Fashanu, no one's felt the courage to do it, and I think it's completely understandable why. You only have to look at, even when Sky were obviously the first to release their video with Daniels yesterday, replies turned off. Cause,
Sky turned the replies off on the tweet.
You know, don't you? Unfortunately. That people will be fucking people, unfortunately. We did a podcast on this about a year ago. We've done pods on homophobia in football, and I think this is a great step for so many people because it's inspiring for so many other people. And the fact that he's 17 as well, maybe he's got less fear, I don't know. I hope that it doesn't overwhelm him because he's obviously such a young man in terms of how the response is going to be. I mean, his Twitter account's gone from a couple of hundred followers to 17,000 in the space of, 18 hours or so. So there's going to be a lot of attention on him. Everyone's going to want to do interviews with him. But hopefully he's the first. The thing is, this shouldn't even be a story. He's gay, so what? It shouldn't be a story because it needs normalising that it's okay, and for other people to feel like it's okay. That's all I mean by that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a story because it hasn't happened in the past.
Exactly.
And it's still not just in football, but in most sports, you don't get that many openly gay people even coming out. I think, I don't think I'm hoping that there won't be overwhelm. Obviously, I think he's already prepared for the dickheads of the world, which we'll move on. But then there are people that have come out post-career, like the Welsh rugby captain.
Thomas Hitzlsperger is another one.
Yeah, who have come out later. And I think those kind of people will be around to support and give advice. And admittedly, they did it after their career had ended, but they've still been through it. And generally you see overwhelming support from the people that matter. So you just got to switch off the idiots. So let's see how this story progresses. I mean, it's 24 hours in, and it's I suppose it's a surprise that it's happened. I think the timing's quite good in terms of it's the end of the season.
Yeah, I said that to you yesterday.
So yeah, let's see how it progresses. But you got to give the guy credit for having the cojones to do this.
My opinion has been, and it's only my opinion, and it's kind of easy for me to say, oh, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. My opinion for a long time is that we've wanted someone to do this, to kind of take that first giant leap, so for others to potentially feel comfortable and stuff. And I don't think it's going to change the world overnight. I just want everybody to feel comfortable with who they are. And one of the things I said when we did that podcast last year was that I think, again, we've spoken about it in kind of FPL terms. This is very different. But sometimes you look at the bubble on Twitter and it feels like a 50-50 spread of like love and hate. I know, in my opinion, that in this country, 99% of match-going football fans are ready for this.
Yeah, I think so.
I really, really do. And a lot of the hate you'll see online and stuff are from small account people who have no threat of punishment to them and stuff. I generally think inside stadia and stuff, football's ready.
Yep.
Football's ready for this to accept it as normal and okay. So I think it's great. Fair fucks to him, man. Brilliant.
I don't know if I agree, but I think I need to think about it. Based off the fact that, like, is football ready for race, like black players, for example? And yet you hear the story from the weekend of Rico Henry and Tony's parents, family members getting abused. So we've been ready for dealing with racism. It's so high profile.
This is why I say 99%. It's not like there weren't 10,000 Everton fans racially abusing Tony's family.
Yeah, that's a fair
it's
point.
Probably one or two people out of 40,000, isn't it? That's what I mean.
Yeah, I think, you're right. Okay, yeah. If we look at it from that context, there will be people. So 60,000 in the stadium, 1%, that's what, 600 of them. They're probably, you're right, that's probably a fair number. The others won't, but 600 can still make unnecessary amounts of noise about these things. But, we've got to work together to keep it on our mind. So, good on him. And we'll keep our tab on the subject as and when it develops in the coming weeks and see how it goes. So we're going through player of the season for each of these teams. We're going alphabetically or league table?
Let's do league table.
It makes life easier because I've got the league table in front of me.
Especially today.
Man City.
Are they top?
Yeah, mate. Man City.
I think the obvious name for City Player of the Year is obviously to say De Bruyne. I think, have you done a list yourself as well?
No, but I know, I haven't written it down, but I know who I think.
You know it?
I know who I think, but I like to go a little bit left field on these
There's a couple of teams I didn't really want to pick anyone, and we'll talk about them when we get there. I think De Bruyne is the obvious person to say. I think he would probably be in everyone's team of the season. I think the way he's finished the season some would
recency
even say
that
a little bit. Bernardo Silva's had an absolutely brilliant season, particularly around the winter period. Absolutely fantastic. He's been consistent all the year through. I'd actually give it to Rodri.
Yeah, I was going to say Rodri.
Really?
He was I think he gets not enough credit because of the superstars around him. And he scored quite a lot of goals.
He has added a few goals
this year. So I think Rodri's my player of the year.
I basically, since I tore into him, I'd been meaning to tear into him for a while on the podcast for his poor performances. And then the last season, they drew 0-0 at Old Trafford, and I tore into him. It finally come round, and I did it. I don't think he's had a bad game since. He's genuinely stepped up real levels to the point he's become... I think there's always been, until the last year or so, a real doubt from City fans if he could ever truly replace and be as good as Fernandinho. I think now he's at the level where... if he were to pick a world 11, he would be in the conversation to play that sitting anchor position in City's nominal formation. So I think Rodri, he's had an outstanding season. Cancelo's another one needs mentioning. Laporte's had a much better season. I think Kyle Walker's had a good season. So there are loads from City. With City particularly, I don't feel those are right or wrong. I think most people will probably think De Bruyne again because some of the recency stuff. But I think over the course of the whole season, Rodri for me.
Liverpool.
Salah and move on. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult because, again, you could say, look, Jota's really stepped up. Mane's had a good season. Even at the back, some of the players have been really good. Alisson's had a good season. But the fact that he's running for Golden Boot again and has done so well, I think Salah is...
He's still player of the year, isn't he?
Yeah,
I know he's had his numbers haven't been the same second half of the season as the first half, but I just think he was so incredible in those first 4 months or so that he probably could have been injured in January and stopped it there, and he'd still be in the running for a player of the year. So I think he's still for me the overall player of the year. So yeah, Mo Salah.
Chelsea's
a more difficult one because it was interesting. I was doing a video for our advanced tier patrons, and it included a team of the season. And my instinct was to put Rudiger in there, and then I thought about it for left side, and Van Dijk's had a really good season coming back from the injuries and stuff. Laporte's been good for City. So I'm not sure Rudiger has been better than those two. And then it got me thinking more about Tiago Silva. And I always speak so highly of him. And I think actually at his age and when I've seen him live this year, he's just coolness personified. His top level was great in the cup final again. I mean, it was hobbling through most of it. I'm going to go Tiago Silva, actually. I think he's had a great season. I think that from the forward attacking players, Mason Mount would be the
Mount's
one who's had the consistency.
I think in a squad full of so many stars, the fact that he gets so many minutes and is still Mr. Reliable for them. And I think there has to be, for me, I always look at it as a club like Chelsea will always buy in whatever talent they want, but he's come through the youth system. I don't think he's particularly glamorous as a player compared to some, and still churns out the numbers so consistently. He's one of those, like, he'll come in FPL next season, 7.5, 8 million. You buy him and you leave him in all season because he just will tick along nicely. I think Mason Mount for me. I have English bias, I think, because I like seeing young players like that come through.
That's okay, we're English.
And so Mason Mount for me, I think, is who I would go to because I just think in amongst the squad full of stars where they've paid 50s and 60s, he still always is the most consistent out of all of them.
Yeah, I think my guess would be from Chelsea fans that they'd probably be split between Silva and Mount would be my guess. I like any fans listening to these clubs. We talk, if we get this bizarrely wrong or something, come and tell us. Let us know your opinion in the comments and replies and stuff. I think Tiago Silva for me.
Yeah, Spurs, Sonny.
Yeah, I mean it has to be.
It has to be.
But he's not who I voted for our player of the year
on the app or whatever.
Yeah.
Did they give you anyone? Can you vote for anyone, or did they narrow it down to like 2 or 3?
Oh yeah.
Who did you vote for? Højbjerg?
Matt Doherty, obviously.
Doherty.
No, I voted for consistency, and I part did it. It was irrelevant anyway because I knew Son would win it. I voted for Eric Dier.
Okay.
And I'm not saying Dier over Son particularly. I just felt that he'd really stepped up his game this year and was
a good season, no doubt about it.
Was deserving of the vote in a vote that also didn't particularly matter because it was so obvious that Son would win it. So yes, Sonny. I think Eric Dier has had an outstanding season. I don't think he's had a bad game.
Arsenal, Saka as a standout again. So. It has to be again, hasn't it, really? But I think, a number of players there have stepped. Odegaard's had a good season. Ben White's come in at the back and been decent. Tomiyasu come in and been back, but has missed...
Great finish last night, by the way.
Periods through injury.
Ramsdale, good season.
Solid season.
He's had a shaky last couple of months, I think. But possibly because he'd set his bar really high, a lot higher than what we were expecting from him as well.
When he came in, there wasn't a guarantee that he was number one over Leno. I didn't think they'd bought him straight to be number one.
Leno played the first 3, I think, I want to say. Might even be first 4. But yeah, it's got to be Saka, hasn't it? Yeah, Saka would be vital. Saka, I would think, because there's been a few outstanding players on the right wing this year, probably wouldn't get into a team of the season. But I think ordinarily he'd be in the running, actually. I think it's got to be Saka, hasn't it?
Yeah. Manchester United. And we didn't make much reference to Arsenal shit in the bed yesterday, but we'll do that on Friday's pod when we review the games.
Do it on tomorrow's Tottenham as well, mate.
Manchester United. Go on, pick one.
Well, this is one.
Pick one. David De Gea.
Genuinely, you'd happily put none, wouldn't you?
David De Gea.
I've put Ronaldo.
He still scored a lot of goals.
But yeah, to be honest, literally on his goals return is a good goals return. I really didn't want to pick anyone. I think, what is he,
I'd go De Gea.
third highest scorer in the league, Ronaldo, third or fourth?
He's up there.
Which is probably what we would have expected pre-season. I don't think, no one was expecting Ronaldo to come in and get 35, 40 goals, I don't think. So was he on 18 in the league or so?
I have no idea.
It's decent return. He hasn't played every game. I think the only alternative probably would have been, De Gea, who's been better this season than he's been in other seasons, but I don't think he's anywhere near the level he was at 6-7 years ago. I mean, could you make a case for like a McTominay? I mean, Fred has been okay this year. I mean, he speaks a lot for United. It's a tough conversation, isn't it?
Yep.
To give it to anyone.
West Ham United.
Unbelievably not straightforward, I don't think, because there are two absolutely outstanding players.
I think if you took it just on footballing alone, I'd put 3 in there, but Kurt Zouma kicked a cat, so he can fucking rule it and put himself out of the running. But he's, from a footballing point of view...
You wouldn't pick Zouma over Rice or Bowen, surely. You couldn't.
No, but it's not like...
But then people would say that about Dier over Son with me, which
exactly.
I'd accept.
He's just been so consistent and reliable, and it changes the feel of a team when you know you've got someone at the back that just is so solid. And I think there's no coincidence that Dawson's raised his game when he's playing alongside Zouma and so on. Rice won our Player of the Year. But Bowen's got recency bias, scoring 2 goals against City, and his second half of the season's really stepped it. I mean, 29 attacking returns over a year is no joke.
I'd have both in my team of the season, of all teams.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's straightforward. If you're wondering, I'd just put Salah through the middle to accommodate it.
Yeah. I could argue the case. There's games where Rice has grabbed it by the scruff of the neck and dragged us through, but then Bowen's done the same as well.
Yeah, and big goals to win big games and stuff, right? So
can we share it?
I think Rice is the right call. Yeah. I think that's if you've got to pick one.
If you look at it, he's added to his game from last season in terms of driving runs and a little bit more of that. So I think they've both improved, and Rice has also improved. So you're right. Like, he's the one that you'd want, and he's played well enough. So we'll give it to Declan Rice.
I'm going Rice, yeah.
Wolves in 8th.
Do you know what? It's really weird because over the whole season, they've had a good season, right? Every Wolves fan would have been delighted with 8th. And you even look at this and you think, I don't know where to start here.
It's easy, I thought.
Goalkeeper.
For me, it's Jose Sarr.
Yeah, I know.
Straightforward. Jose Sarr has come in and been a great goalkeeper this season.
Yeah, well, similar to Ramsdale, I don't think he's been great last couple of months, to be honest. But I think the only person I could even make the only two you could even make a case for alternatives is Neves when he's great. He's obviously a joy to watch. And although he's now injured now, and Max Kilman's had obviously a very good season.
Yeah, he's really levelled up.
But yeah, it had to be the goalkeeper, I think.
Jose Sarr.
To be honest, yeah.
Leicester. Who's fit?
Not an easy one either.
Just because who's fit?
Not an easy one, but I think in their outstanding moments, the one who's shone best is throughout the season is Madison. I think it's not been his best season, but I think he's in double figures for goals and assists as well, which is a pretty good return. So I think James Madison has been the one we've spoke about him a lot. If I knew he'd play twice in somebody's doubles, you'd want to stick him in and that. I think he's been in the latter part of the season, particularly in their good moments, he's the one.
Yeah,
I think so. James Madison. To be honest, the rest of the squad, I don't think it's even stayed fit throughout the season. I don't think Tielemans.
Schmeichel, but you wouldn't give it to Schmeichel.
Tielemans hasn't had his best season. No, I wouldn't give it to.
Not even
Schmeichel. Can't come and catch a cross from a corner. It's a problem. So I think James Madison.
Yeah, Brighton difficult. There's a number of good candidates. My standout, I don't know.
I actually found this one of the easier ones.
I would give it to, I'm going to say his name, Leandro Trossard.
Would you?
Yeah. Over what? Lewis Dunk, Webster.
Keep going.
You'd give it to a defender?
Yes.
Lamptey?
No.
Solly March?
No.
Veltman?
No. Nico, shout it. Nico knows. Yeah. Oh, he doesn't know.
Cucarella.
Mark Cucarella. outstanding first season. Really, really good. Adaptable, left-sided centre-back, left wing-back. He does stand out because of his hair. I think like straight away from week one, people were like, who's this? Who's this guy with a barnet? But I think he's been outstanding. He was voted their supporters player of the year the other day as well. So their fans, I think, will be in agreement with that one. I think throughout the season, Mark Cucarella.
He's been consistent.
A lot of others, like Trossard's had periods. It's recent, but he's had periods this season where, I mean, we couldn't wait to get rid of him, could we?
Yeah, I think Cucarella then wins on consistency over explosiveness. More
and
than
I think that's part of it when you're looking for an individual club's player of the year. I think that's why I speak about Dier. Like, I don't think as Eric Dier been man of the match for Tottenham in a single game this season, maybe 2 maximum. But has he actually had a bad game all season? No, I don't think so. And I think Cucarella possibly falls in line a little bit like that. But he was fantastic against Manchester United, although the whole team was. I think that's one of the easier ones, actually, is Cucarella at Brighton.
Brentford.
More difficult because there's a number. I think the goalkeeper, I've spoken about him quite a bit with you recently, on and off camera. I'm a big fan of David Raya. Yeah, I think he's great.
He's probably missed too much of the season to...
That's the problem. But then if you look at their results with and without him...
It's a big difference.
I mean, arguably, if he hadn't got injured, they might have even finished as high as 8th, possibly. I think Pinnock and Janssen of the defensive players have been very good. I think Rico Henry has got better every time I've seen him this season. He was a player I'd been tracking a bit in Championship last year when I was playing Gaffer, and now I owned him a lot. So I was aware there was an offensive fullback as seen with the goal at Everton at the weekend. I think he's got better and better. I think he started quite nervous this season. I think he feels like he belongs now. Eriksen's come in and had a great little impact. I think Tony has been consistent and done well. And Bumo has been absolutely fine. And from a Brentford perspective...
Did you say Norgard?
I'll get there.
Oh, okay. I was going to make sure you hadn't forgotten him, because I think he's Mr. Consistent.
No, I haven't forgotten Norgard because he's my choice. And Bumo, I mean, works so hard for the team as well. So the fans there love him. He really puts the shift in. He's a good presser off the ball. He's just been frustrating from... When we all went for him in FPL was frustrating. But he's had a very good season, actually. And Norgard, for me, is the choice, yeah. I really, really like him. He does a brilliant screening job. He's won more tackles than any other player in the league this season. I think Christian Norgard would be the choice for me.
I think we might agree on Newcastle.
It's another very easy one.
Joel Linton.
By miles.
Joel Linton.
Could
you ever think we'd be doing this on a pod and saying Joel Linton?
By miles, because of the transformation.
Consistency again.
Has to be said. I feel like the last few years, and this isn't particularly relevant, the last few years in the Premier League, we haven't had players come into the Premier League and make major impact from January onwards. This year, Kulusevski and Bentancur at Tottenham, Luis Diaz at Liverpool, and again, Bruno Guimaraes, like last night, it's fantastic. Joel Linton has to win it because the transformation is unbelievable.
Yep.
Unbelievable from this centre forward who there was always a feeling that there was something there, but no confidence that he could finish. I was just turned into this absolute midfield monster. And he looks like a top level player now. Yep. So Joel Linton by miles, I think, at Newcastle. Surely. Tell me if I'm wrong, Newcastle fans. Got to be Joel Linton.
Crystal Palace. Question. We have not really got to this until we get to Crystal Palace. Are loanees allowed to be your player of the season?
Yeah, this is an easy one. It has to be Conor Gallagher for the whole season.
I don't know. It's he. You say. I mean, I think Joachim Andersen and Gay have been decent and Mitchell come in and played well. But the problem with the forward players is it's been flashes and a lot of rotation. Like Elise's of the world, he's had good games, and Zaha's had good games, and Mateta and all these guys have shared some goals around. I would give it to Conor Gallagher as well if we're allowed to give it to loanees.
Yeah, you've got to. Listen, he's been a Crystal Palace player this year.
But I think that the two centre backs are not far behind him.
Yeah, I think they've been good. I think they've been a good partnership. They haven't really been wiped away by anyone this year. I think I want to say they've only lost by more than a goal, maybe twice, and one of them was Zaha got sent off at Tottenham quite early in the game. So, I mean, they've been competitive all season long, and he's one of the reasons why, right?
Agreed.
You watch him and you think, oh my God, he's such a pest. Like, he's awful to play against. He just doesn't stop. He sets the tempo for his teammates and the supporters as well. I don't know if they'll be able to get him back for another year, because I've said to you, I think he'll start for Chelsea next year, is my opinion. I think he's a natural. He's a very different player from Kante, but I think it's natural that he takes over that role from next season. So Conor Gallagher for Palace, easy.
Yeah. Aston Villa.
Difficult one.
It is, isn't it? I know who I'd give it to.
Go on.
Kind of by default. John McGinn.
To be honest, he was one of two players that I considered. He was one of them. I think
the other one is Danny
really,
Ings.
really consistent all season. Danny Ings hasn't played enough, man.
That's the problem. But Ollie Watkins has been in and out. The front, the two or three behind.
Watkins would comfortably be ahead of Dean. I think
Dean or Ings. Dings.
Sorry, yeah.
Dings. But yeah, but then even the defensive lot have rotated a bit.
We couldn't consider Luca Dean, obviously, and anyway, he only joined them in January. Yeah. I think Jacob Ramsey's had a real breakout year.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Very good.
Shout.
But for me, it was McGinn or Matty Cash. I've gone with Matty Cash, actually. I think he's really stepped up a level, and I think it's difficult for him partly because, I mean, he's obviously going to play for Poland now, but partly because of the English right backs. It's quite difficult to get noticed in our league as a good right back, I think.
Yeah, it's
and I think defensively, he's still got some work to do. I think offensively, I really like him. Like, I wouldn't complain if Tottenham went in for him in the summer. I'm not suggesting that Villa would sell or anything. But I think, I really like Matty Cash. He reminds me a lot of Stephen Carr, actually. I see similarities in the two players. Really like Matty Cash. I think he's been consistent throughout the season. I would go for him over John McGinn.
Southampton.
Easy one.
James at Ward-Prowse.
Mr. Consistent. Yeah.
I look at him and I see, he's one of those, when I was thinking about Noble retiring, it's like the club can have ups and downs and bad days, but he's the guy that you don't get mad with because you always know what you're going to get out of him, and that's James Ward-Prowse for you. I mean, he signed the deal there. He could definitely move and play at a high level, but I feel like he might even end up playing his whole career there because it's home and he's captain and he's leader of the club.
Another player I would very happily take. I don't agree. He was actually in the final 8, I think, for nomination for Player of the Year.
Yeah.
As in the whole league. I don't agree with that.
I'm with you.
That's a surprising name to see on that list. But for Southampton, clear, solid, consistent, rarely has a bad game.
Fucking hell, his right foot is something else.
Best set piece taker in the league, has been for a long time. Yes, can definitely. We're not trying to sell people's players here, but yes, can he go and play for a Champions League club? Absolutely.
Everton,
one of the harder ones for sure.
I mean, the likes of Gray and Townsend started the season so well, then kind of fell away. Richarlison's been there throughout. Calvert-Lewin's been injured.
Yeah, I tried to picture who I thought Everton fans would vote for. And this is what I tried to do with a lot of this. And I think
Anthony Gordon, isn't it?
No, I think Pickford. That's caused some stunned silence. Evertonians again. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Again, he's been good recently. I don't know about throughout the whole season. I don't know if it's fair. They'll know better than me.
I think as well, like if they stay up, them big saves against Chelsea, Leicester,
massive. They were huge.
So, and I think has he been bad this season? I wouldn't say he's been. I think he's had some good performances, but I think in a team that's obviously been for what Everton would have expected, they've been horrendous. What's the alternative? Okay, Gordon breakthrough year, Richarlison.
Yeah, those are the only other two.
Defensively, he's been a car crash. So I think most Evertonians would go Pickford.
Leeds, Rafinha, move on.
Awful. I think actually this was the hardest one of all in the sense that
Rafinha, surely.
I couldn't. When I went through the squad, I couldn't even think of anybody else who I thought truly I could say had a really good season. They've obviously had a lot of injuries and stuff as well. I think, and it's not uncommon that a lot of the squad obviously played their first Premier League season last year. The second season becomes hard. I was even looking at that and going, which Leeds players have had a better second season than their first? I couldn't think of anybody.
No,
couldn't think of anybody. And then I started thinking back towards the start of the season when they were more fun and stuff like that. And I was thinking, well, yeah, it was still Rafinha that gave the enjoyable moments and stuff. So I was thinking a lot actually watching the game last night about when Leeds played at Newcastle on a Friday night earlier in the season, and I took a hit to get him in because I actually started the season with Harrison, didn't I? It's been a letdown other than one game at West Ham. And it was such a joy to watch that night. And that was a really good game. And thinking about where Leeds were then and Newcastle were, and then seeing what Newcastle have been doing the last few months, you wouldn't even believe. If I'd showed you that Newcastle-Leeds game again now, you could not believe that game was taken from this season. It must be last season or something. You wouldn't believe it. I think Rafinha.
Burnley. Is it default Nick Pope or Tarkowski or me?
No, and I've said it a number of times. I think Josh Brownhill's had a really good season, actually. He would be my pick. I don't think defensively they've been quite up there.
They haven't.
Not helped by... And I think Nathan Collins, I said it on the pod yesterday, really good. Like if they go down, I think a few clubs will be looking at him. Tarkowski's obviously going to go. He's available on a free and stuff. I think Roberts never got into the team till sort of January, February time. Then he was out and was back in, so can't be considered. Taylor, it never gets through 38 games in a season. I think even just before his injury, Jack Turfy-Topper had said to us Westwood hadn't had a great season. McNeil's really underwhelmed. Cornet's not had any consistency.
No.
They've had two different forwards in Wood first half, Redcaw second half, and neither have been able to find a net. I think Josh Brownhill's the one who's been consistent throughout, so we'll go with him.
Watford.
Well, they gave it to Hassan Kamara, their actual player of the year. Left back, joined them in January.
Mad. I mean,
that sums it up, doesn't it?
I'd probably go by Dennis by default.
Yeah, I'd do the same.
I think he's been all right. Dennis by default. Ben Foster didn't start the season and had an injury in the middle. I don't know. Defensively, I'm not touching anyone from there. Sissoko, maybe?
Yeah, I considered Musa.
Maybe Sissoko.
I think he's pissed him off a bit, isn't he? He's talking about going back playing France next year and stuff like that, like before the deed was done, and he's pissed a few off. But in terms of consistency throughout the season, Sissoko, yes, would be in the running. I think, again, to reflect on their better moments this year, such as the win at Villa, which I had a look back on last week, the 4-1 against Manchester United and stuff, I think, yeah, it's Dennis. Dennis's goal returns is actually fine. It's just the fact that, again, a little bit like with Mbumo, when everyone bought him was obviously, for many of us, the wrong time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dennis.
Last but not least, Norwich.
Similar, like Pookie's numbers are absolutely fine from what you'd expect from a team who's been bottom of the league for the majority of the season. So I think Pookie, it's really difficult, again, to pick out one who I'd think has had a particularly really good season. I think there's a few players who have had, I'd call moments. I think Norman has on occasions shone out as looking like he could be a good potential player.
Had a couple of games.
So infrequent though.
If Adam Eder had stayed fit,
Paul's not had a good season. Max Aarons doesn't look like the player to me that a lot of people were chasing 2 or 3 years ago. So I just think by default, his goals return is good. Is Pookie.
Yeah, agreed.
Those at the bottom particularly, like if we're badly wrong here, tell us. But I think we'll have the majority of them right, I think.
I agree with you. Quite a few make themselves default. Yeah, interesting rundown on all of the 20 teams. You know what to do, listeners. Head over to Twitter, Planet FPL Pod, where you can find James, who will have tweeted this episode. You can chuck your names in a list if you can fit them in 140 characters. And if not, YouTube, whack them in the comments and we'll have a look at them as well. And I think there'll be quite a lot of agreement, maybe the odd disagreement.
I think probably the first one's the one that will cause the most disagreement, Rodri, actually.
Indeed. We'll be back at you tomorrow with Sky Fantasy, with Liverpool tonight. I'm looking forward to making some moves. I can't wait to see that team. I think I want to go a bit rogue on captaincy.
Well, he said, isn't he, no Van Dijk, no Salah seems to be... That's the word on the street. Spine Cop, who's very reliable, tweeted that last night as well. They've obviously not travelled. So there's hope that both players could still play against Wolves on Sunday. But they're not going to be available tonight. And which 2 players do I own in Sky Fantasy?
Well, my manager of the
transfers, that's it, it's done.
I only have one, and that's Joel Matip, who I'm quite...
Joel Matip should play, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be back Sky Fantasy tomorrow. Obviously, there are Sky games. There's football on Thursday again, and then we're into the last day of the season. So stay tuned. Look after yourselves, and a ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man, child.